Good morning, everyone. This is Nathan Lindorf with The Rational Independent. Today, we turn our attention to Newsweek and an article that calls for the resignation of Dianne Feinstein. They say, hey, even Democrats are calling on Dianne Feinstein to retire. I figure this is an opportunity, we'll briefly go over the article, but this is an opportunity to engage with the epidemic of really, really old politicians on the left and the right, and talk a little bit about how we got here. In case you didn't know this, Dianne Feinstein has been in Congress for 30 some odd years. She's now 89 years old. She represents California. She's reliably very leftist, very liberal. She's a machine politician. And because of that, she's won re-election handily over and over again. And she can reliably be counted on to vote in line with Democrat Party politics. However, Democrats are a little frustrated with her right now. I guess she got diagnosed with shingles and has missed a bunch of votes. Now, one of the things that this article calls out is that the issue at the moment, the pressure, Representative Feinstein serves on the Judiciary Committee, which means that her vote is important to push through further nominations for President Biden's for the federal bench. Whether you like his judicial nominations or not, it's kind of beside the point for today's article. That's where the pain point is going, because without her there to vote, these nominations are held up in committee. There are a variety of Democratic congressmen saying things like, she can no longer fulfill her duties, this is a dereliction of duty. Should she step down? Yes. She's missed this many votes, stopping us from moving forward with our judge nominations. That's from a New York Democratic representative. Sometimes I see patterns in the speech, and sometimes I marvel at why certain things are the way they are. Here's one little tidbit. This is a bunch of Democratic congressmen talking about Dianne Feinstein. Of course, we need to get a quote from the wonderful, the illustrious, the fresh-faced Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Just like a few weeks ago when she was quoted related to Marjorie Taylor Greene, here Newsweek refers to her as New York Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. However, referencing a different New York Democratic congressman 2 paragraphs up, they just said New York Rep. Jamal Bowman. Why the difference? Why the distinction? There's some kind of pattern here. I couldn't tell you as to why, but it's an interesting pattern to me that whenever AOC is referenced by articles, it seems that it's like they want to put as much weight behind her and her title and position as they can. My 2 cents. We'll keep an eye on that and see if we can find a pattern there. Feinstein issued a statement on April 12th saying she intends to return to D.C. as soon as possible. There's a bunch of noise in this article about how there's the idea of let's appoint a temporary replacement to her on the committee for while she's ill. But in order to make that kind of committee swap, the Republicans would have to go along with it. They've made noises saying, no, we're not going to go along with that. So the seat on the committee is vacant. I thought this was an interesting quote. This one is from a Republican, Senator Chuck Grassley, a longtime member of the Judiciary Committee who is also 89 years old, accused Democrats of trying to force out Feinstein because she's old. I don't intend to give credence to that sort of anti-human treatment. We'll comment on that here in a minute. And of course, the always delightful Nancy Pelosi makes a comment last week and says, I don't know what political agendas are at work that are going after Senator Feinstein in that way. I've never seen them go after a man who was sick in the Senate in that way, because it must be about sex. It must be sexism. Couldn't possibly have the same pressure on a male congressman. Here's my 2 cents. First, allergies are terrible, hence the face. This is party politics. This is Congress doing business as usual. Truth of it is, the average age in Congress is very high. The body of representatives in the House of Representatives, and to a certain extent by the Senate, should represent the lives and the livelihood of the active participants in America, in the economy, in the schools, in our lives. They should be representative of us. But when I look at Congress people on both sides of the aisle, I see people who are representative of the people who write them big checks, left and right. That's going to come back to bite us. There's a whole host of issues when it comes to the way Congress is structured and the way that it does its business right now. And it's way outside the scope of this video. It's definitely a multifaceted issue. But let's just target one piece of it for today. The likely nominee for the Republicans is Donald Trump. He's in his, I want to say, late 70s. Their likely Democratic presidential nominee is President Biden. I believe he'll be 82. This is pretty old. If you look at it, we had quotes in this article from two people in Congress, both 89 years old. Nancy Pelosi is in her 80s. If you look at the key players on both sides of the aisle, you have people who have been in the system for a very long time. That's something that I can see real problems with. I'll keep things brief today. Here's my one simple point. Without term limits on Congresspeople, the return on investment for lobbyists to try and capture a senator or a congressman, the return on investment is much better. You pay to get someone elected. You get their loyalty. You help them get reelected. You build bonds and ties and a sense of loyalty, and then they vote reliably the way you want them to vote. The longer they're in there voting, the more incentive there is to pay for the loyalty of a congressman. If a congressional representative is limited to 3 terms and a senator is limited to 2, that's 6 years and 12 years respectively, then when you're looking as a lobbyist and you're saying, all right, I want to curry some favor, even if I move heaven and earth and spend a bunch of money to get this congressman elected, I'm only going to get 6 years of votes out of him, and then I've got to find someone else and bring in fresh blood and start over again. And it is one way to counteract the corrupting influence of outside money in politics. Turn the politicians over more often, and you will get fewer of these dinosaurs that are just, they're like a part of the building. They're like a piece of furniture in the building. They are just so enduring because they're bought and they've been bought and they stay there and they just keep doing their thing and they just keep getting richer and richer. I should do a deep dive, but if you're ever curious, pick any congressman. Take a look at their net worth when they got elected. Take a look at their net worth after, let's say, 20 years in Congress. And their salaries are public. So go ahead and take a look at their salaries. Run the math and tell me how you get so many politicians who so consistently gain vast amounts of wealth, far outstripping their salary over the course of a career in Congress. If that's not a sign of corruption, I don't know what is. I know these are not the smartest stock pickers on the planet. I know these are not the best business people on the planet, but they have found a way to enrich themselves. So maybe we should do something about that. That's my Reddit rant for today. Good luck out there.